liquid asset.
Who's got the time? Is it time for this meeting to start?
One more minute.
5:49.
You good?
Good? All right, let's call the meeting to order. We call the meeting to order and turn it over to the, who's first? The Parks and Recreation Committee?
We don't have anything today,
They're not
Mayor.
meeting, so we turn it over to the Planning and Development Committee.
All right, I will call to order the regular meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee. I believe there's just one item on the agenda, Ms. Schuler.
Yes, sir. The only thing we have to review is the discussion of the site plan for the Somerville Elementary School bus loop parking area and district office stadium parking area. This property is zoned PL now. All of our schools are now zoned PL, which means that the setbacks, any buffers, all that stuff is basically at the approval of town council. So technically, everything with planning development goes through this committee. So we figured we'd send it through y'all first before it went to full council for review and approval of the site plan. It has gone to our technical review committee, which had a number of comments, which they have appeared to have addressed all of those that we had, or some of them are still in process, just things about going through SCDOT for encroachment permits and that type of thing. But basically what they're doing is on the Somerville Elementary School, they are adding a bus loop with some parking in the rear of the building. So this is off John McKissick Way. They're removing a number of those kind of, I think they call them learning cottages now, but
Trailers?
yes, I think they are actually labeled as trailers on the existing site plan, but removing a number of those and putting the bus loop and parking area in that area where those were. They are having to install another pond to deal with the stormwater due to those changes. And in the front of, not really in the front of Somerville Elementary, but what's now the district office, formerly Rollins, they are kind of modifying the existing parking and adding a pervious parking lot kind of adjacent to the stadium. So we don't have it on the screen because we didn't think it would really be very visible on the screen, but you do have the site plan in your packets. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer those as best I can. But it does also need a certificate of appropriateness because it is in the historic district. They haven't applied for that yet. They wanted to make sure y'all didn't have any major issues before they applied for that.
I've discussed it, and I'm happy to make a motion, send it to full council for approval.
I'll second.
Any other further discussion or questions for Ms. Schuler on this matter? If not, I'll call the question. The motion is to refer this to full council for recommendation of approval. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
We'll make it unanimous. Is there anything else that anybody else on the committee would like to bring to our attention? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Okay, we've got the Public Safety Committee coming up next. The police chief has got 2 items and the fire chief has got 1. John, are you there?
And I sent you a text earlier. I'm not sure if you got it. I'd like to also amend the agenda if there's no objections. We just recently, over the weekend, got information on some COVID vaccinations that we're going to be rolling out for public safety. So I'd like to update you on that if you don't have any objections.
Okay, great. No problem.
So the discussion of the tow ordinance, I sent that out to y'all. There's a couple of minor changes. We're just trying to get this thing up into the 21st century. And Councilman Bailey found another couple things we need to look at. All the changes that I had done and GW viewed were highlighted and sent to you. Basically what we're doing is we're changing the pricing to be more in line of what's going on in our neighboring communities. And it's changing the time a little bit where they can charge storage. And that's pretty much that, into addition that they will tow our cars, but we'll put them back on the top of the rotation. I'm not sure if you folks have any questions for me about what was sent to you. I'd be more than happy to answer.
I just got one little question. What's the change in price on the charges?
Charges going from $150 to $200, and they can't change or they can't charge storage fees. Currently it's 48 hours, and we were changing that to 24 hours. And our neighboring agencies, some of them have no waiting time before they can charge storage. However, I think it's fair if we have a situation where someone's been arrested, we got to give them 24 hours to get their vehicle out because they got to get bonded out, all that stuff. And then today, there's a discrepancy on the mileage where the business is located in the first part of C, and that would be the 3 mile for both of those. I can get the new one out there.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I've got a question of John. On the very last page, item 6, I think John mentioned this, but it says wreck of service on the town's rotation list will not change for the towing of police vehicles from a collision or breakdown to the town limits to facilities in the town limits. The wreck of service will be placed back on the rotation list. Did I understand you correctly, John, that the town would not be able to charge the tow truck for the tow of the police?
Yeah, they wouldn't. If they tow one of our police cars that's broken down or involved in an incident, most of them don't charge us now. They just ask that they be put back in the top of the rotation list. So I figured while we were cleaning up the ordinance, I would just add it in there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure it's a good idea to mandate a freebie from somebody that's kind of dependent on the good graces of the police department to stay in with the tow list. I mean,
We did reach out to every one of the companies and speak to them, every one of them that's on our rotation list, and speak to them, and none of them had any objection. I'm more than happy to remove it if you don't want it in there.
If they're all in agreement anyway, I don't see a whole lot of need to sanctify that by putting it in the ordinance, and I just don't think it looks real good there.
Okay.
That's just personal opinion. I mean, I might.
John, one other question, if I might. Going from 48 to 24 hours on the charging, I can envision a set of circumstances where it would be pretty difficult to get there in 24 hours.
Yeah, and that's why, we were trying to meet them in the middle. Most of our agencies around us, they don't even have that grace period in it. I just thought it was fair to have a grace period in there. Even if someone is incarcerated, let's say, that would give them time to get on the horn and get to a family member to go over there and get the vehicle removed before they start paying storage. And I get it for the tow companies that they just can't have these vehicles sitting there forever. It's on their property, taking up, time and space and all that. So I see the reasoning to have the charge in there.
Yeah, no, I see the reasoning to have the charge, and you said something that I wasn't sure of. So, is it not the owner of the vehicle who has to pick it up?
Sometimes that's impossible, simply because of circumstances. If someone's in a collision and they're hurt really terribly and in the hospital, they can't get out of the hospital. So it's
no, and I understand that, but my question is, I know that's not possible, But if I'm just aware of the fact you call them up and say, I want to pick up my car, and you're not the owner, you're now put in a position, even though I'm within the 24-hour period, I'm put in the position of trying to justify why I am doing it. If we're already doing 24 hours more than everybody else is already doing, I'm okay. But if what we're trying to do is make it where it's, we charge the fee and we want to give the people an opportunity to get it without incurring greater cost, then 48 hours seems more reasonable to me, but I have no angst on it.
Well, I see what you're saying, Terry. You make a very good point. But under circumstances, from hearing John's discussion, I think he feels he's got it covered. What's your take on it, Walter? On that woman?
Yeah, I've got no strong feeling on that one way or the other, really.
Okay.
I think what John said is that some give none.
Correct.
And basically no one gives more than 24. So I'm okay. I just wanted to understand.
All right. But you illuminated the point pretty clearly, and it's something to think about. But okay. Anything else on that item?
No, I just basically, you'll see all the strike marks in there. I just got rid of language that didn't make any sense. You know, some of it was talking about pagers and stuff like that. I mean, it's just bringing it into the 21st century.
Gotcha. All right.
And what I can do is I can send you all out a clean copy with this 3 mile thing corrected on the second page. So you'll have a clean copy of everything if you want it.
I'd like to have one. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Good.
I'll make a motion that we send this to full council for approval.
I'll second that with the caveat that at the council meeting, I'll probably make a motion to delete the paragraph about the free service for the town police vehicle.
Okay, we got a motion from Terry, and Walter wants to amend it.
Well, I actually didn't move to amend, but I think the full council ought to make the decision on it, but and I think it ought to go to full council. I was just stating that my position on what I will probably do at the council meeting. So I'll second the motion, send it on with it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If you're in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
All right.
Okay, John, you can go to discussion of amending the noise ordinance.
Yeah, what we want to do, and GW's been working on this, is actually have a noise ordinance where we could have something where it's enforceable. What is loud to you may not be loud to me, may not be loud to the next person. And the only way to really do that is get in a decibel reading. Now, of course, it's going to take some money to purchase these decibel things, and they've got to be maintained and all that. However, it's just going to get it across the board of what is considered excessive noise and where it can be. And again, GW did the research on this one and put that in there.
John, just I understand it, the ordinance, and you know, we faced it before, we've had it before. To me, it's almost impossible to deal with. How many noisometers or whatever, the decibel meters, machines or whatever, do we get? I'm sure they're not insignificantly expensive, and the upkeep of them is not insignificantly expensive. And at what level of violations are we really concerned about? I mean, this is just so far off of my radar. I mean, other than the odd complaint that if we're spending a lot of money to do this, doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we probably,
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, I wanted to explain something if I could to Terry. I know he addressed it to you, but, Terry, I was the one that kind of, I'd asked John about it. And apparently there's an enforcement problem now with any noise ordinance because it's an objective standard. There's no, it's a subjective standard, I should say. And if someone rides around town with no muffler in their car or making a bunch of noise, the police write a ticket, the town judges are, as I understand it, kicking the case out because there's no objectives. So that was the reason I asked for the GW about, redrafting that. And I think the main thing is that there's a rash of cars around town with no mufflers at all. I mean, making lots of noise, and it seems to have increased a lot over the last 6 to 7 months. And I don't think that they're going to be writing tickets right and left on that, but when somebody it's an egregious violation, we ought to have the ability to do something about it.
But John, can you better address the issue of, I guess if it's a muffler, I can understand it because if there, you can have the guy rev up the car and see what the decibel level is while you're there with this decimeter or whatever it's called. But how many of these things do we need to buy? What's the cost of one? What's the upkeep of one?
they're about $500 each. And we'd have to get, quite a few of them to be effective. Where we're getting complaints too is a lot of houses that are near stop signs. One of the downsides, for lack of better words, of a stop sign is noise and pollution. And when these a lot of them are, the complaints that we're getting are these trucks when they take off, they're loud. So it'd be something where we could, if we get a complaint in an area, we could sit there with this tool. But yes, they are about $500 a piece. They are going to have to be maintained, and starting off somewhere probably around, 15, 20 of these to get them all throughout the organization. That's just the start.
John, how much would it run just to have the traffic people have them and not on every car?
Well, we got 13 people in traffic, so it'd be 13 of them. I'm not sure what the total cost of upkeep would be, but of course they're going to have to be calibrated, or they'd be rendered useless, much like radars. You have to calibrate them yearly.
Are you trying to find grant money to pay for something like that?
There's not a lot of grant money out there for this type of thing right now. Everything is focusing right now, anyways, on the majority of its COVID type stuff and mitigating that. It doesn't say that there isn't going to be one out there, but there's nothing out there right now that I can see for grants.
But you feel that it's enough of a problem for the town of Somerville that we need to get some equipment to be more objective with what we're dealing with? When somebody
if we want to make a case in our court and be successful in any court, we're going to have something that's going to be able to tell us whether these people are actually in violation or not. Because again, it's perception, and whoever is calling in, their perception is their reality.
John, is an alternate or modified approach to this to piggyback on what you said a little bit earlier, that we maybe only get a couple of these things? And
like Walter had said, we could put them out to all the traffic units. So, realistically, we're looking at like 7,000.
I ain't talking about all the traffic units. I'm talking about a couple, 2. Let's use the number 2. And the reason being, let's find out if you've got this corner that you say where people stop at, and that's where the violations are, or where the perceived problem is, that we do a test case and we find out, okay, we've got a complaint. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your call. We'll have somebody out there, and we'll be out there, and we'll stop those vehicles and test them. And if what we're doing, because you can't just, we're not riding around with them. We're not going to have 10 people out there at different places. I'm just wondering if that's a more sensible way to determine the value of having these, and is the problem that is perceived real?
I think you make a good point, Terry, but I think 500 a piece, and you're talking about, say, 13, that's $7,500, something like that. But here's the thing.
Month salary for me.
Maybe what we need to
A
try
year's
to do
salary for
is
me
get
on
maybe
town council.
a small quantity of them. I don't think 2 or 3 is going to do it. I think we need a few more than that. Maybe we can meet in the middle somewhere, and that would make more sense to me.
Yeah, I think there is some merit in starting off kind of small. One problem that would avoid would be if I would hate to get 13 or 20 of these units at $500 a piece or whatever they end up running, and then have the judges still, for whatever reason, some creative argument by the defense lawyers, still not accepted as valid evidence. Then we're stuck with them. So yeah, if we can start out with, say, 5 of them, maybe that would.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe a small number, 5 or 6. Okay. Anything else on that before I get a motion here? A recommendation to the former regular council.
I'll make a motion to send it to full council for discussion and approval.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion and a second, and once we get it to the council, we can decide on the number, I guess, based on what our council feels about it. All those in favor of the motion say, raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so it goes to council. Thank you, John.
All right, the last thing I've got is I just want to give you an update of what's rolling out with our COVID vaccines and what we're looking at as far as following a policy right now, to get you guys aware of it, maybe pass it through a resolution. But with public safety anyways, we had a meeting this morning, and we're going to start vaccinations tomorrow. And what we've basically decided is we're going to see on a voluntary basis how many of our employees are going to sign up for this thing. And what we've done is we've come up with a plan that, you know, if a employee decides that they do not want to take the vaccination, there's just going to be some requirements on their part that basically they're going to have to wear a mask while they're working entirely, just for the safety of others. So we're excited that it's going to start rolling out. It's only for police and fire. Some firefighters have already gotten it, and police starts tomorrow. So we're hopeful that we get a bunch of people that are going to get signed up. We've got forms that they need to fill out, and then we're going to be able to track who is going to be taking it and who isn't going to be taking it. And then as it comes available for other parts of it. Rebecca, did I miss anything on that?
No, just for council's kind of awareness, we've reached out to our healthcare provider and our health insurance provider and to the municipal association, just kind of getting some more guidance on it. On both from what we've seen, it is, you know, it will be difficult to make it absolutely mandatory for employees. There are some workman's comp issues possibly. And we're working through that. I think our goal is to basically give you, there are going to be people who can't take the vaccination or say that they can't take the vaccination. And our goal is to give you an option. Either you take the vaccination or you're required to wear a mask at all times in the office and in the fire station. And I know that's a lot, but for those who take the vaccination, you know, you want to make sure you're protecting them, and for the public, you want to make sure you're protecting them also. So we're working through kind of the legal implications of it, and may ask council to sign to approve a resolution for it. I think now we're just dealing with public safety with police and fire, but as we move forward with it being available for other people, we have to kind of consider what we want to do with our other individuals that deal with the public on a daily basis, or just the number of employees we have. We have over 400 employees, so we've got to work to and protect our fellow employees as well as the public too.
But if you have some people that refuse to take the vaccine for whatever reason, and they're wearing the face mask as an alternative, they may have to wear that face mask a very long time, because this virus is probably going to be with us a good long time.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be dealing through 2021. I mean, hopefully, we all hope that it's sooner versus later, but it's the truth of the matter. And with as much exposure that our police and fire have with the public, we're hopeful that the officers and firefighters are going to be lining up in droves to get this vaccination process done, so we can keep them safe and keep our community safe.
When do you start, John?
Starting tomorrow.
Yeah, well, if you have somebody that decides not to do it, give me a call. I'll take that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're excited. It's Tuesday through Friday this week. So I'm hopeful that we can get a lot of people their first shot this week. And we're going to be using different resources too. There's a different process in another hospital where you can sign on and make appointment times. This one is all we have to do is show up. We have like a 13-hour window to do it. So I'm very excited about it, because we've had a lot of our officers exposed, a lot of people out. I've had a couple of hospitalized. So this thing gives me grave concerns for our employees.
Yeah, I concur with Terry. I'd be willing to take a shot too. I'm over 75 years old. Walter's a little younger than me.
I'm still 75 though.
So we are, they are using MUSC and Trident, and between police and fire, I think that hopefully we will be able to get a lot of them vaccinated this week.
Well, I mean, Congress got it because we wanted to make sure that halls of government could still continue to serve no matter what. And I'm unsure as to why that doesn't roll down to states and counties and cities. But anyhow, I won't press it since I've got my shot scheduled.
Sounds good.
That's all I have, sir.
So, John, how long do you think it's going to take to inoculate all of your people?
I'm hoping that we can get anybody that wants it and then some this week over the next 4 days.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would be. We're going to try and stagger it. I mean, obviously there are some side effects. We all know it. My spouse has already had her second shot. It was very small side effects, but it does and can give you side effects. There's just, basically tired and aches and a little great feeling what they're saying. So we're trying to schedule it and stagger it where people will be going off shift to get it. So it gives their bodies a time to get immune to it or used to it. I'm not sure what the technical word is. So that way we can remain with the streets covered.
Good. Well, that's good news. That's a good report. So we'll just receive that as information. Anything else, Chief?
No, sir, that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the panel before we get Chief Waring in?
No, not for me.
All right, Chief Waring, we're ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Members of the council. Wanted to give you guys a quick update on where we were with Station 6. This is a fire station we're trying to get designed and built on Miles Jamison Road. We've worked with the Coast Architects recently to come up with a space needs assessment. Of course, this building with the agreement, we have to provide some space for EMS should they decide to put a unit in that area. That's part of the agreement that worked out for us to get the land. So we've been through all that, and we've come up with about a 7,500 square foot building is what we're looking at. That includes truck bays and whatnot as well. That's not all heated space, but that's dormitories, living areas, office space, as well as it's a 2.5. If you're familiar with our station on Butternut Road, it's the same size as that truck bay plus another half of one of those. So that's where how the truck bay layout will look. So we've, over the course of the next week, we'll be working on a set of specifications so we can get out. We want to go down the road of a request for proposals. The reason being, we want traditional construction for this facility is up pretty high. So what we'd like to do is get the entire design and contracting team on board so we can propose some alternative construction methods, such as a steel frame building or something like this station, Loon Drive and Trolley Road, like those stations were done with steel frame construction, to see if we can try to save some money on the construction costs. So like I say, we hope to get those preliminary plans out this week, and I can show you those if you'd like. I can try to share my screen real quick, see how that goes. You guys see that?
No.
No.
Chief, if you hit share screen, it'll pop, a window should pop up and let you
Okay.
share.
There it is. Okay. Now can you see it?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so this is the dormitories are over in this area here. We gotta reconfigure this wall a little bit for the EMS space. We need to shrink their space down to 2 beds is what they need. We have some space up front for a future chief officer position that will be in the probably next 2 years we'll be looking for. That'll be a 24-hour shift person that'll help run and respond to calls and supervise incidents as we continue to grow over the next couple of years. This will be the officers' quarters in this area, if you can see where my little hand is going, and station office, EMS office, and then going back for the day room and kitchen area, living area. And then this is the truck bay layout that I was talking to you about before. We allowed space for a drive-through station just because that's more convenient for us rather than trying to back in truck Miles Jamison Road. So that's what we try to do, design most of our stations to be able to do that. So any questions on the floor plan? I can email this to you guys so you can have a better look at it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. And then this is the site plan. So the site, this is Miles Jamison Road. This is a traffic circle here. We're coming up, towards the coastal center. As we come up this way, this is the coastal center property over here. And so this would be the driveway coming in from the coastal center side and circling back towards the truck bay, and then out for the emergency exit to the emergency vehicle access there. And then this we did allow some space on the site for a future storage building. We just with a lot of our issues in the department is we build a station and the minute we get it done, we're full. It's full of just storage and whatnot. So we wanted to allow some space on the site for a future storage facility. So like I say, the timeline now is to try to stop sharing. Try to get us out for bid, out for proposals by the end of the month. Suppose we get it advertised by the end of the month, and get our design and construction team on board and press forward with it.
Funding wise, currently the fire fund, the fire facilities impact fee fund balance is $838,000. So we have that we can put towards the construction. And we need to, we really kind of do need to bid it out and look at the different options of a metal frame building versus traditional construction, because the cost difference is in the millions of difference. So we need to look at that and figure out what we can afford to do there. We're also, I've asked Andrew to send our latest information to David Cheatwood, our financial advisor, so he can update our financial modeling, so we can look at if we had to borrow money, where it could come from and how we could use it.
Okay,
That was the information I have for you right now, Mr. Brown. Like I say, I'll email you those two documents I just shared with you as well.
any questions from the panel, council members?
None for me.
Nope.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll just receive this as information unless one of the council members want to make a motion.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, need a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I'd like to open up the Public Works meeting. And Russ, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm just going to go through a few project updates, and there's a couple new items, one old item and one new item for this month. We'll talk about at the end. The resurfacing project did get completed after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, so that work is done. We will not have another resurfacing project probably until after the new 12-month fiscal year, after July 1 of this year. We didn't fund anything for the 6-month fiscal year for resurfacing. Next item is Maple Street, still acquiring right away. We have, I think, one property left to acquire, and we're still waiting on DOT to approve our plans. I know Baker is addressing comments they had, and hopefully get those out and get this thing ready to go once we identify some funding for it.
Russ.
Yes,
Russ,
sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This Maple Street is basically giving me a lot of problems. It's like an Achilles heel. And people are complaining about the fact that from the Berkeley County line down to primarily Highway 78, it's just a mess. There's potholes everywhere. Is there anything we can do prior to, I know you're talking about acquisition of properties to try to get the whole thing done, and I know we got a funding problem, that if some way we could do something about that area right there where it comes up to that Sphinx station, it would make a big difference. And also, I think there's a liability issue for us too, with the potholes and the road is such disrepair. Pretty soon, we could have an accident there and then we could have some problems.
Yeah, we're aware of the condition of the road. It is in bad shape, and we've let DOT know that to patch those potholes. I think our people even patched a couple of those potholes. So we're addressing that the best we can. The widening, that's what we're doing. So I don't know what we can do any sooner than what we're trying to do now. Whatever we do is going to take money. Right now, we've got $0 identified for construction.
That's not something that you can apply CTC funds?
No, sir. CTC historically has funded resurfacing, and their annual allocation is about just under $2 million. So $2 million really won't touch this problem at that intersection.
Well, I appreciate the information, but it's a real problem.
Yes, I agree. Yes, sir. Next project is the Cedar Street extension. Kind of where we are. We are expecting some right-of-way plans later this month, January 15th. And when we have those, I'll share those with y'all later. But again, there's no funding identified for construction of this project or right-of-way acquisition. So we need to make some decisions probably the next month on where we go on this project after we acquire the right-of-way plans. Central Avenue sidewalk, that is making progress. I've asked our consultant, they were working on the entire project, the whole 3 miles out to Knightsville. I've asked them to focus on developing plans for phase 1, which is going to be approximately where the project starts at West Carolina out to Parsons Road. So I've asked them to focus on developing plans for that and then finish the other 2 sections. I think we can get phase 1 underway once we can identify some funding for that.
Russ, if I may, just interject one question, back up to Cedar Street.
Yes,
Am
sir.
I correct in my understanding that we're getting the right of way study done, and when that is done, we're not going any further with any other spending on this project until we get back together?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So next month, hopefully I'll be able to share the plans that identifies the right of way we will need. But there's no funding and no contract right now to start acquiring right of way. That'll be the next step.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. The next 2 projects, West 5th South Street and Lee Street sidewalk, kind of on the same track. They were both developing final construction plans, and we've already submitted Lee Street for permitting through DOT. So we should be submitting West 5th South for permitting through DOT, which is only Main Street, as we own that road. So hopefully these are ready to go this summer too, once we have our new budget after July 1, if we can commit some funds to them. North Hickory Street sidewalk, we did get some comments from Norfolk Southern. We are addressing those comments. This project is funded by block grant funding, so it is funded. So once we get our DOT or railroad permission, we can proceed and start this project hopefully first quarter of this year. At least get out the bid first quarter of this year.
So Russ, how far away are we from getting this done?
Hopefully get this thing started in the next 90 days, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Sure. Shepherd Park, Germantown drainage. As you know, we did submit for a grant last year, and the grant was not approved through the RA office. So we've kind of taken a step back and going to approach it a different way. There's 2 components to this project. There's the Peter Street diversion component, and then there's the pond itself at Parkwood and Shepherd. Stormwater Department right now is acquiring quotes for the material for the Peter Street diversion. We hope to start that portion of the project late February, early March. Residents will be seeing trees, or we have to remove 8 trees for this project. That'll be happening before our crews mobilize. So that project will be underway in a couple months, that portion of it. The pond portion of it at Shepherd and Parkwood is a little more problematic. We're working on putting together a bid package to clear, grub, excavate, and grade the pond. And once that is done, stormwater crews can come back in and install the pipe structures associated with the pond. And that will complete the project. But we're working on developing the bid package now. Hope to get it out by February and get this thing under bid. I did do a soil boring on it. As expected, the soils there are not very good. They're not good at all. So there's not much value in that soil to help us out financially there, unfortunately. So that's kind of where we are with the Germantown Shepherd Park drainage. Any questions on that one? Okay. Next one is US 78 North Somerville drainage study. That's the report I sent you all back in mid-December of last year. I know some of you have looked at it. I think I've had a couple of questions. I can go through that if you'd like me to tonight, or if you just want to, if you have looked at it, you have specific questions, however you want to approach it, it's up to you.
I'd like you to go through it tonight.
Okay. Let me try to share my screen with you. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, this is basically the cover page of the report. So the report, we looked at several different things. First of all, we identified there's about 86 acres coming in to Mr. Sign property. And this is just a picture of the August 15th flood event. We had 4 inches of rain in about 2 hours. It did flood his parking lot and get into his building. This is a map of the entire 86-acre basin. The green square is Mr. Sign's property. This is Main Street to the left. This is 9th Street on the upper end of it. And it goes up to about the Earth Fair property. A lot of area coming to one point right here at the bottom. Because this is the soil map, types of soils identified in the area. And all that water is going through this 36-inch pipe. So you imagine 86 acres all flowing down. Much of it is impervious. There's not much detention ponds on the properties in that 86 acres. So all that water is trying to go through this hole right here. And that's where our problem really is. This is another map of the basin. So the area outlined in cyan or light blue is the 86 acres identified. This dark blue line is the ditch that comes down through the basin. This is the self-storage area on Gum Street. This is where it comes into Mr. Sign property. This red line is a pipe section that drains much of Main Street from up here all the way down. All that comes through this pipe section into the canal. This yellow line is another pipe section that drains much of this area over here. So majority of the basin comes through into the canal right here. So that was a reason why looking at the detention upstream really wasn't going to do us much, because all the water's coming in right here so low in the system. So we did look at detention in this area here. Unfortunately, all this is developed, and we identified the need of a 5-acre detention pond to really be effective. So that would require buying out people, relocating people, and the construction of the pond in this area. I can show you some of that. Going through the
Acre.
What's that? So this is one pond scenario we looked at, and that's outlined in green. It's about 5 acres there. It shows a lot of area that we would have to relocate. This is just an approximate, but several buildings we would have to demolish, purchase, buy, and very, very expensive, several $1 million for this alternative. Another scenario, a 3-acre pond. Unfortunately, this pond would protect the property against a 25-year event. But if we get a larger event, a hurricane situation, it would just flow right through it and wouldn't give any protection. So I would not advise spending the kind of money we would need to spend to make this happen, to not give all the protection we could provide. This scenario is a 5-acre, two ponds that would protect the property, but it requires this area here we identified, and all this property here would have to be bought out, relocated, and built. In addition to detention, we looked at upgrading the conveyance, upgrading the pipe system downstream. So I mentioned earlier, there's a 36-inch pipe there now. To handle the water for a 100-year storm, we need 6x9 box culvert, which is over 6 times the amount of water size we would need to convey. So that's multi-millions of dollars, and that would be almost impossible to be permitted to the Corps discharge out in the Sawmill Branch at this point. So we also looked at diverting water out of the basin to other basins. Just the way this basin is set up, diverting water to the north or west of 17A, that basin is already taxed. That's the basin that comes through Azalea Park. That's already at capacity. I would hate to fix a problem here and cause a problem somewhere else. So that really wasn't a feasible solution. Plus the grade we're working with, make it almost impossible as well, very difficult. So unfortunately, the recommendation is to basically buy our problem, and the only properties being flooded are the properties owned by Mr. Waters, the Mr. Sign property and the little office across the parking lot from him are the only properties that are really being flooded that we are aware of. I know I presented that to you in the email. I got a couple of responses, but that's kind of where we are with it right now. Open any questions you have and talk about it.
Well, I've got a question. You said, have you got an estimate what it would cost the town to fix this?
We haven't got an appraisal on the property, on Mr. Simon's property, so I don't know. I've heard he has a number in mind, but I've not heard what that number is.
Well, I mean, I hate to say this, but it looks to me like we're doing too many things that cost money and can't get what we need to get done, like Maple Street. And, I think we need to start streamlining our goals as to what we want to achieve in a certain period of time. That's just
I'm sorry. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Russ, if we were to acquire that property, would it be that we would put a retention pond on that area, or we would just leave it as is?
If we acquire that property, I would recommend we demolish the building, pick up the parking lot, and just plant it in grass and let it be. It's a floodplain. It wants to be a floodplain. Let it be a floodplain. A pond really wouldn't do us any good there. It would just be a green space. It's unfortunate because it's in a prime location on 78, but it is what it is.
Russ?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure whether I was muted or not. Just, I guess an observation and a question. An observation, we absolutely, there's a flooding issue there, particularly in huge dumps of rain at a time, in a short period of time. But as I look at it and understand it as much as I can, it's not the only place where we have these types of issues. It may be one of the most prominent in town, but it's not the only one. And if we, we start buying property that floods, we may flood ourselves out of business.
Yes, sir. I've thought about that. We know over the past 3 or 4 years, we've done 4 of these types of studies, or we've had a problem, identified a solution, and the other 3 have more feasible solutions. Basically, build a detention pond somewhere, and that fixes the problem. For example, Germantown and Shepherd Park, we're building a detention pond, and we're diverting some water up out of the basin. That's going to solve that problem. The one in Springview Lane, Oak Brook, that recommended building a detention pond. We're gonna acquire that property pretty much at no cost. You just have to pay for the construction. So you're right. If we start buying flooded property, that's going to put us out of business, but it's going to be very unusual where this is the solution. I think most cases we're going to find a sensible solution that's going to benefit more people than one property owner. One thing I do recommend we do, whether we buy this property or not, is as much of this 86 acres is older part of town, undeveloped, and it's going to be developed or redeveloped over the next 15, 20 years. And it's only going to exacerbate the problem we've got if as new development comes in. I would like to get some language on our UDO identifying this as a problem basin and require additional stormwater mitigation requirements on all these new developments that we're going to see over the next several years.
Well, as I look at this thing, what it brings to my mind is, as you showed those flow zones, if you will, from Main Street in, we're getting ready to take one of the larger pieces of property that is an open piece of property, which we've just approved, and develop that now or soon, which is going to further create issues for this flood.
Where is that?
Where the old, right next to the fast food place, what's the name of it?
Next to Checkers.
Next to Checkers, what's the name of it?
The Half Moon Outfitters?
Yeah, Half Moon Outfitters.
Yeah, we've already talked to them. We've already told them they're going to have to build some detention ponds on that property. And so, yeah, we're aware of what's happening there. We've had that conversation with them. But I think we need to have those requirements in the ordinance so we can enforce them in the future.
And I mean, I understand that, but I mean, that part of town is going to become more and more business. I mean, it's mainly business now, but more and more business in my estimation, and I just think create a greater problem. And so, as we look at what we're doing, and I know that I'm not an engineer, I don't know what the costs are, but just buying a piece of property and making it a retention pond of its own, if that solves an entire problem, maybe there's great value. And I'm talking about the problem from 78 to 9th, if you will, and coming down to go through. And if it doesn't, then while there are things that are expensive, and whether it's us, whether we do anything, we've got to decide. But raised buildings, pylons, other things that are there, I'm not saying they're inexpensive or even less expensive. But if we're doing something that costs an equal amount of money or something close, but we're still retaining businesses in a prime part of town, we just need to flesh this out as much as we can. That's not a solution. A lot of comments and thoughts and questions.
Right, I understand.
So I guess really before we make any decision at all, we need to know how much is that building worth and what type of number is in his head right now, Mr. Waters.
Kim, I'm gonna beg to differ if I may. I'm sorry, I'm not on the committee, and if we want to wait for this to go to council, I'll be happy to do so. I think we need to look at, as a council, all of the different options of working with Russ, of not looking at one piece of property with one problem in one area. We need to look at that part of town that Russ did a great job of showing us where the water flows and how it flows and what the problem is, and projecting some thoughts of what development in that area is going to be like, and what is it that we need to do to solve the greater problem of what happens in that area. And it may be that tells us that buying the Waters property is the best thing for us to do, because it's the cheapest for everything else that's going to happen there. But I just don't think we've got enough information to start deciding whether we're going to buy a piece of property. But that's just me.
Well,
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, that's what needs to be done. But I guess we still need to know what the numbers are on that property, at least, so we have one part of the information.
I think my recommendation is whether we buy that property or not buy that property, we do what you're saying. And what I recommend, Terry, is look at some controlled or restricted stormwater development in this entire basin, because the more development that occurs or redevelopment that occurs is going to exacerbate the problem.
Yeah.
So if we don't start managing it now, it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, I agree, Russ, because you got Billy. You don't know what's going to happen on some of the Walker property. You got the Varn track. All of that impacts everything that's going to happen in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fortunately, the Varn track is not in this basin, so we're not going to affect it. But you're right, the Walker property up here will one day be developed, and we need to have a handle on that before it occurs.
Yeah, so this may be a subcommittee or at least another session of, what do we need to do, and I'm gonna look at this as a blessing and a curse. Low country and flooding is not something that's going away. Okay, I mean, that's just reality. We're going to keep developing. So I think we need to start separating the town into parts, and the things that could become parts, and deciding forward looking, what are the things that we need to know we need to get done and require to be done to make sure we're not going back and trying to fix stuff.
Well, there's no question that we're dealing with, I've been on council almost 20 years, and the flooding problems keep getting worse and worse as the town grows. So I just wonder whether we need to be doing some future planning and how we're going to deal with these issues. But, I think we've got to also streamline our thinking as to what we want to accomplish. And another question I've got too, we just passed, last year, the UDO. So how does this area and what we're dealing with now fit into the UDO, Russ?
I think it'll easily fit. It'll just be a kind of a standalone drainage ordinance, if you will, for this area we've identified. We just have to, I'll talk to Jesse about that, but I think we could easily insert it in the drainage section, stormwater section of the UDO as a special identified area.
So
and I've already talked to some folks about ideas on doing what I'm suggesting we do. I'll have more conversations later this week, and we'll come up with some kind of game plan to present to you all next time.
Yeah. Let me see if I'm something correctly. Excuse me, Russ. Mr. Waters acquired this property in what year, Russ?
2003, I believe. 2003.
Okay. And so his concern is, he's saying that the development around him or behind him or whatever around Nunn Street on has caused this problem for him?
I don't know if he has a reason for what's causing, if he knows a reason, but
I mean, what makes it, the town's responsibility is what I'm getting at. Make his problems the town's responsibility.
well, it's a town drainage system that we maintain, and we try to protect property from flooding by maintaining our system and make those improvements as necessary. Sometimes those improvements are very expensive though, such as this one.
Yeah, but in 2003, when he was, we didn't have as much development as we've got now behind him or north of him or whatever. Was he still having these flooding problems?
I don't know when his first occurrence was. I know I started with the town in 2005 and really don't remember hearing about it till later. We were kind of in a drought situation at that point, so I don't remember hearing about it till 2009, 2010.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking out loud, I just think that when we, as development comes, we've got to be thinking in terms of the holistic view of the entire town as opposed to one particular area that's being developed.
I agree, and that's why we've done several studies in different problem areas around town. We're trying to attack those and solve those as we move forward, as funding allows.
I would just like to say I'm very cautious, hesitant to get in the situation where we're buying out property. Obviously, if it's determined, a couple things, that the property owner wants this remedy, but that the cost of us acquiring the property to essentially convert it to green space would need to be clearly and convincingly the most efficient approach. I just think it's bad precedent to go around saying that anybody that has a flooding problem, we're just going to do the quickest fix possible, which is to buy you out.
Oh, that's not what we're doing.
Hardly on that, Bill. I think we're creating a problem for ourselves if we start doing this.
There's no question about it. If you're talking about spending, I just don't know. I have no idea, because I have no idea. I've never heard anyone say that Mr. Waters wants to be bought out. I have no clue what he will take for his property. If we're forced to have to, initiate a condemnation action, I'm against it, period.
Well, would y'all like us staff to go to Mr. Waters and present this report and talk about it with him to start that conversation? Because I've not shared this with him yet.
Well, you are now.
Oh, I know I am now. So your phones may be ringing later this week.
Yeah, and mine too. Because I'm, if you look at it, Kimmel, when you started, we talked about numbers that it could be worth, but if you're looking at the perceived or real issues associated with this property on the open market, what is it really worth? And I'm just guessing. The property may be worth something to someone who can come in and build a structure in a location of town that is above the floodplain that we're dealing with there, and it has a value to them. But that we don't have that value. The property as it is a value to Mr. Waters, who's a good friend of mine. But in terms of another business coming in and acquiring it as it is, I'm not sure it has a lot of value. So there's a ton of questions to be answered there.
So Russ, you think by next month you'll have more information for us then?
Well, well, I'm gonna explore the stormwater development restriction in this basin over the next month. So yeah, I'll have some more information on that. Would y'all like us to get an appraisal on the property to see what the value is?
What does the committee think?
I think we ought to, just to know where we stand with it. I mean, I'm not by any means saying we should go in that direction, but I think we need to have all the information that we can get.
Okay.
I would say I'm not on the committee, but if we are going to get appraisals, I certainly would get more than one. I'd get 3.
Well, we're not getting quotes. We're just getting an appraisal from a licensed real estate appraisal. It's typically what we do with any kind of acquisition or potential acquisition.
Yeah, I don't know why we'd get more than one. I just, again, if we're happy with the appraisal and Mr. Waters is happy with the appraisal and it is clearly and convincingly the most efficient way to deal with this problem, I would consider it. I'm very skeptical of all of that.
You are correct.
I think this is this may be the absolute exception to the rule. I don't know, but I think this is not the way to approach problems like this.
Mr. McIntosh, I agree with you. And like I stated earlier, we've done 4 of these types of studies over the past several years. And this is the only one that recommends a buyout. The other ones had real solutions we could, if more financially feasible, to implement, and we are on 2 of them right now. So this is an exception to the rule most of the time. And
it may be the exception to the rule until we know what we're talking about. I would rather spend 20% more fixing the problem, maybe even 30% more fixing the problem than buy this piece of property.
Here.
Well, the only problem is this piece of property is the only property that floods. The properties around it don't flood. So this is the problem.
I understand. I would rather not take this property off of the tax rolls.
I understand. So you do want to get an appraisal on the property? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, do you
Yes.
need council approval to do that? I don't know.
No, I just want some guidance moving forward.
I would think it would be impossible. I can't speak for the rest of the committee, much less the rest of the council, but I think it'd be impossible to really evaluate your proposal without one.
I think that if you get an appraisal on the property, Russ, you ought to give them your report and let the appraiser know that this property does flood.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that'll be part of it.
It can't be used, that's the problem. We've reached with it, because if the property is not worth anything, we go buy it and grow grass on it and it's gonna flood, then the appraiser needs to know that.
And he or she will.
Okay.
And I think you need to go ahead and have it appraised then. Even though I'm not in favor of buying it, I can tell you that right now. I think we opening up a can of worms that we ain't gonna be able to put the top back on if we buy that property. And we might get sued and eventually have to buy it, but right now I'm not in favor of buying that property, but I think you need to get it appraised where we can quit throwing around numbers that we don't have any idea what they mean.
All right, that's what we'll do then. We'll get it appraised.
Okay. Is that all you have, Russ, or do you have something else?
I got a few more things.
Okay.
That was a big one though. Next item is Springview Lane, Oak Brook drainage study. I just received a design proposal for the pond recommended in that study last week, and we'll be proceeding with that. I've talked to mental health and I've talked to Mr. Bailey, the other property owner. They're willing to give us any ease that we need to build this pond. So I think we can acquire the property at no cost on this project. There'll just be construction costs, and I'm hopeful maybe our stormwater department can handle much, if not all of this one yet. So that's to be determined, but I'll know more in the coming months on that, more details on that solution.
That's great. That works out.
Another one I haven't done before. I know there's been a lot of stormwater department's been doing a lot of work recently around town and different larger projects. I'm gonna go through some of their activities they've been working on and plan to work on in the near future as part of the report going forward in future months. One project they've been involved in working on is the Robin Wind drainage. They've been in the Robin Wind subdivision for the last several months, just regrading roadside ditches, replacing driveway pipes, is getting water to flow where it was standing before. So I think he's got 2 or 3 streets left in there, and that'll complete that project. And I think we've got a lot of great comments and a lot of support from the residents out there. So it's been a positive experience, everybody. I don't know, Mr. Brown, if you've heard anything from your constituents there, but it's been a good project for stormwater. This week or today, they mobilized on the Sawmill Branch Canal near East Richardson at the trailhead. There's been a big washout there for the last couple of years, so they're going to work on making that repair this week. Depending on whether we'll finish it this week or next week and get that taken care of. They've also been in Corey Woods. As you know, a couple months ago, we removed 2 large undersized pipes that drain Corey Woods through Hurricane Branch. Since then, they've been behind 5-iron and 6-iron, cleaning some ditches that were clogged up and needed some work to be done. Over the weekend, our tree contractor mobilized in there around behind 4-iron and started cutting trees. He'll be in there probably the rest of the week, finishing cutting those trees. And after he's done, our crews will go in behind him and regrade those ditches. Also, there's a driveway pipe just upstream of where we took the 2 large pipes out, that we'll be upgrading that pipe on Longleaf. So I think once all this work is done, the problems we've had in Corey Woods will be solved. I think that'll help that neighborhood greatly, and hopefully not have any of the problems we've had in the recent past. Any questions on Corey Woods? Another small project I've been dealing with for a while is Gaston, Salisbury, that area. There's a low area behind the corner of 4 properties that it's been nowhere for the water to go. It's just a low area. So the town's acquired some easements, and we're going to install a pipe out to Salisbury Drive and drain that area. On August 15th, the same day that Mr. Sign flooded, this area flooded and flooded someone's pool, got under somebody's house. So it's been a problem for several years, and we're glad we're finally getting it done, getting it solved. Next item on the agenda is something we talked about last month, which is the discussion of one-way wearing. Back in October or November, we did an online poll. We sent over 100 letters out to residents that live in that area around Waring Street, use Waring Street. We received 32 responses, 32 votes, I guess. 7 of those voted to one-way, convert Waring to one-way from Simmons to Classic. 19 votes were to convert one-way from Tallow Street to Classic, and 6 votes were to keep it the way it is with no change. At the December council meeting, the committee requested that our fire chief and our police chief review the subdivision plan on the red property between Germantown and Shepherd for safety, as it was laid out safely. Both the police and fire chief found nothing unsafe about that subdivision, and they both recommended we convert Waring to one-way between Tallow and Classic Street. Staff recommendation still stands to make that one-way conversion between Fallow and Classic as well. That's kind of where we are, if you want to talk about this some more.
I'm okay with that. We need to send that up to full council, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so. Be a good idea.
Any other thoughts? Okay, do we have a recommendation to send it up to full council?
I'll move that we send it to full council.
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. Last item I've got is the drainage at 633 Central Avenue. Mr. Ford lives there. He contacted the mayor, and Mayor and Miss Weatherford and I, Jill, went out and visited the property last fall. And basically the problem is water crosses Central Avenue. It gets in a ditch that's not maintained. There's no easement on it, but the ditch runs from Central Avenue all the way back to Briarwood Lane. It gets in the pond system there. It's a lot of ditch, but the ditch between, I guess, Charlie Lane and Central Avenue is probably the most critical part that really isn't being maintained. It's high in some sections. I know the county tried to acquire easements on this ditch back in around 2013. They sent letters out to adjoining property owners. There was no interest there, those property owners, to get the easement they even need to acquire it. The ditch is lined with several large trees, sheds, a lot of improvements. There's really no access to get equipment there to dig the ditch out. I know the mayor's office has been talking to some folks out there about easements, and I've not been involved in those conversations. So it's kind of where my knowledge stops on this situation. Mayor, do you want to add anything? I know you're talking to folks out there.
Russ, I talked to Al Bradham tonight, who, we'd already talked to Robert Ford that lives on the left-hand side, the in-town part, who said he would give us an easement. I talked to Al Bradham this afternoon, who owns the property adjacent to him. He's going to talk to his wife tonight. He didn't think it'd be a problem for us to get an easement from him. Now, I know Jack Kirstein's son lives behind him, and I can talk to him. I'll just have to, these are in-town folks. And I can talk to everybody that goes back to Germantown Road on the town side. Now, I've talked to Charlie Tapp, who lives on the county side. I believe you were with me when we walked that side. In fact, you walked further than I did. But he lives right on the edge of Central Avenue there on the right-hand side of that ditch. Right. He said he would give us an easement on his side, and he knew that his neighbor would give us an easement on his side. And that's the two properties that are closest to Central. That's as far as I went. Rebecca said she's going to get the names and addresses of the rest of the people that go all the way back to, Briarwood. And we'll get a copy of those. And then, because I'm sure that people like Terry and myself and other people that know some of these people personally, and we can go talk to them and see, if we can get those easements. We'll try our best, to help you with that, to help the county with that. Because helping the county is helping us. And because if we could get those easements, we could eliminate that drainage problem, Robert Ford and also Charlie Tapp and those people are having along there. So we'll start on that as soon as, Rebecca, you got some information you can share on that too, right?
Yeah, Russ and I had a call with Dorchester County about some other topics Friday and talked about this, and what Russ and Jason Kierher, the Public Works Director for Dorchester County, talked about was the two of them getting together, looking at the ditch and figuring out what they would like to actually do, and using our GIS to figure out which property owners we'd need, which TMS number so we could reach out to them. And if you guys are willing to help the county get the easements, I think that would be helpful because they've tried before and just didn't have any luck. So Russ and Jason can work together and figure out what it is exactly they need to do, which easements they need, and we'll get you guys a list, and maybe we can help reach out to them and figure out, see if we can't put it together.
Sounds good. We'll help in any way we can. I'm sure we know some of those people that live back there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, any other council members have any questions for Russ at this time? Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I moved adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, adjourned.
All right, Mr. Andrew, we're ready for the Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council. Financial report for the month of December 2020. The year is 100% completed. We, for the current period, approximately 2.5 million collected in total revenues. And for that same period, approximately 3.5 million in expenditures. Then going on the next page, we see the breakdown of our revenues. Taxes.
Andrew.
Yes.
Sorry, and as I look at the year and we're, we're 9 or 10% down on revenue, do we have any idea how that compares to other municipalities in the state?
I haven't looked statewide yet. Just looking at all of these. One part that skews that number is the other financing sources. Those are our transfers and our uses of fund balance. We didn't use as much as that as needed, so that dropped it down quite a bit. Court fines, that dropped it down. Our other four main revenue sources, we were around at or over 100% of budget. But
I think the only thing I say for other municipalities, most other municipalities run on the fiscal year, not the calendar year. So comparing the whole year they wouldn't be able to do that.
COVID
Yeah.
didn't beat them down as bad as it did us.
Right.
Okay.
Well, you said that they had
point, Ms. Vance.
Yeah, they'll have 2 budget years that will show up COVID, and whereas we took most of it in 1 year.
yeah.
We hope.
I hope that's the case.
Right.
Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
No problem. Anytime. And then going to the detail, the property taxes for the month of December collected approximately 933,000. On this revenue line, streamer total property taxes 100% of budget. Then vehicle property taxes we're around 74%. We do have one more month of collection because that's done in arrears. And then our heavy equipment tax, it's around 60%. That's a state pass through, so we're waiting on those fundings, but that should reach up to budget we're predicting. License permits and fees collected approximately 800,000 for the month of December. The main source was our business license for our insurance program with the MASC, and then also business licenses. And one thing through the year, we did actually exceed revenue for business licenses. Year to date of around 5.6 million with a budget of 4.9.
Wow.
And one thing on those are based on 2019 gross receipts. So we do predict some deductions in this year, but we were pleasantly surprised with the increase there. I didn't have the court number. I got that today. Collected, I think, around 17,000 more in municipal fines. So we ended up probably around 175 to 180,000 in court fines for the year. With the COVID year, that's pretty good compared to prior years. State revenues collected approximately 172,000 for the month of December. Majority of those coming from our local option sales tax in Berkeley County. Berkeley County and Charleston County, we still have another month of revenue to come from the state to bring those up for 2020. Then on the next page, we get our miscellaneous revenues. Had approximately 588,000 collected in there. And if you look, miscellaneous income was the highest one, approximately 546,000. This comes from the CARES Act funding. We received 540,000 cash payment in December. And that is from the state CARES Act with COVID-19 response. Looking at our total allocated and approved funding, we received probably 800,000 from the state. We haven't received all the fundings yet, but that's what's been approved at the state level.
So that means that we'll be reimbursed for approximately 800,000. Some of that 800, a small portion is for Somerville CPW, but most of that is ours and will go to replenish the emergency funds.
Correct, yes. And that was the revenue collections for the month. On the next page is our impact fee balances. Parks and Rec facilities, approximately 280,000. Fire facilities, approximately 838,000. Municipal facilities, approximately 148,000. Impact fee total balance, approximately 1.2 million. Next page is our impact fee collections for the period, approximately 19,000 in fees collected, with approximately 4,100 in expenditures. The next page is impact fees commercial, collected approximately 2,800 in fees with no expenditures for this period. The next page is our local hospitality tax fund. Collections for the period of December, approximately 348,000 with expenditures of 171,000. Total year to date, approximately 3.4 million in hospitality tax, which was approximately 80% of total budgeted. We do have December collections will be done in January, so we will have that 1 month accrual. But based on the activity for the year, it's a pretty strong number. The next page then is our stormwater fee. Operating revenues for the period approximately 47,000 with expenditures of 148,000. And both of those revenues for fees are over 100%. Total revenue was approximately 95%, but that we did include a portion of fund balance as funding in our budget, which we did not have to use as of now. Those are the financial reports. Any other questions or comments anybody would like to make? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next is the consideration of software for payroll and human resources functions.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve that software purchase.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. We make this purchase on the software for the payroll and human resources function. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed likewise?
Thank you,
Ayes
guys.
carried.
All right. Next is the authorization to accept coronavirus emergency supplemental funding program grant in the amount of $37,827. This is for protection supplies and overtime costs associated with COVID-19 from the police department.
Make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We accept this money. Oh, that's good, isn't it? All in favor signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Ayes carried. Okay, Ms. Beth.
All right, Authorization for the town administrator to sign an MOU between the police department and the Isle of Palms Police Department.
I'll make a motion that we give that authorization to the administrator.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, saying aye.
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 Opposed, likewise. Ayes, carried.
Thanks be to God. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second, we adjourn. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
And bye.
Hey.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Jeez. Let's cut this thing on, Bill.
Damn. You still on?
Why isn't that going on?
Hey, cut this damn thing on.
Leave. Got to hit leave.
Cut it off.